Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Not really sure what happened there with the intro. That's kind of weird. But hey, we're live now, so no music today. Apologize for that. I hit the button twice actually, and it just didn't work. So anyway, we're rocking and rolling now. Welcome to the show. I'm Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. You can find my work there all the time. Excuse me, year round. You can find me here Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Justin Fensterman hosts on Wednesdays. By the way, happy birthday, Justin Fensterman. It's his birthday today. Wish him happy birthday. He's here on Wednesdays with you. On Wednesdays, I'm with Jeff Mans on the Elite Sports Show. The Elite Sports Show is Monday through Friday on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is really weird. I think I've had problems, right, with the microphone. We've never had a problem with the intro not firing. Really weird. It's kind of strange. I'm looking at everything, and it looks like we're good to go. It looks like we're live everywhere that we're supposed to be live and all that. So I don't know. Technology is wonderful when it works, folks. But as we're all aware, sometimes it just doesn't. Lots to talk about today. We got a lot. We're talking half the show baseball, half the show football. And let me just, by the way, Caleb Daniels the other day, we'll get your answer to your question. Our Dynasty guy, Russell Clay, is coming on. So I haven't forgot about you, Caleb. So if you're out there, don't worry. We're coming back to your question today. In terms of what we're doing on the show today, we will visit with Russell Clay in about 25-30 minutes, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Halfway through the show, Russell comes on, talks football with us. Next week, as a programming note, we heard yesterday from Tyler Beaker that he's going to be traveling around trying to find a new home. Good luck with that this weekend, Tyler. Tyler will be on next Friday, and Russell will be on next Thursday. So they'll just switch days up next week. But in about 25-30 minutes, we'll talk to Russell Clay up FG. He is our Dynasty guy. Now, he does obviously all kinds of football, but he's got the focus of also being our Dynasty guy. It's that time of year. We talked yesterday with Tyler Beaker about the Super Bowl. His Super Bowl article is up. If you want to check it out right now, it's live. That huge article he was talking about that he kind of got away with because it just went long and long and long because there was so much time to analyze it. Great article. It's up over at FG. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner to get signed up. You can always send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. Support@fantasyguru.com if you want to get signed up for something that you don't see at the website. So you can check out that article. But he's got that full breakdown. We also talked to him on the show yesterday. So episode 331 of Fantasy Sports Daily, if you want a little bit of a breakdown of the actual Super Bowl itself. Again, accompanying article over at FG, articles at FG, rankings at FG, Discord available at FG, all of that over at fantasyguru.com. But we'll talk to Russell because we had that discussion about the Super Bowl already. We'll talk today with Russell about setting up a Dynasty/Keeper League. We're getting a lot of questions, and our Discord at fantasyguru.com is still popping. Every day we got questions about people, Dynasty trades, and all this kind of stuff. So I thought now would be a good time as the season's just about over for us to look forward to 2025 with Russell. We'll talk about the right way and the best ways to set up a Keeper/Dynasty League. Really a Dynasty League. We'll just define the differences. We'll do that with Russell here in a bit. We'll also get a couple of thoughts quickly on him from the Super Bowl. But before we get to any of that, we'll talk some baseball. Upcoming strike, we'll talk about it. When should you draft? Should you draft in January? Should you draft in February, March? When do you draft? Are you using ADP properly? We'll talk about that a little bit more. And then a bunch of Twitter polls I ran. We'll see what you all thought about a variety of topics. We'll share them and we'll discuss them here on the show. So let's start out with the idea of there being an upcoming strike. We've talked a lot about this idea on the show, directly talking about what's going on with the finances of baseball, using the Dodgers as the foil. We talked a couple of weeks ago when they signed Sasaki about all the issues that are arising, about the deferred payments, about the hundreds of millions of dollars, about the lack of spending by other teams, on and on and on. And we said at that time here on the show that it's very tough to envision a scenario where baseball doesn't have some serious decisions to make in short order. There was an article written over The Athletic, I think it was Evan Drellich, talking about how, to be quite honest with you all, it seems quite likely that when the collective bargaining agreement expires after next season, that there's going to be a strike. So the collective bargaining agreement between the players and the owners goes through December 2nd of 2026. At any point before then, they could reach an agreement, an extension, all that kind of stuff. So there's plenty of time to work this all out. However, as we see constantly in sports and we see constantly in the world, which I never understood, if 12 o'clock is the deadline, the deal gets done at 11:59. Never understood it, don't appreciate it, don't agree with that. You know, if I've got a big article that's due on Friday, I finish it Thursday. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't get it, but that's how the world works. So it's unlikely, despite there being all this time before then, that we really get an agreement early. Who knows? Hopefully I'm wrong. Again, we got a year, we got almost 2 years. Hopefully I'm wrong. But the real sticking points of the collective bargaining agreement are things we've discussed. Like, some owners want a salary cap. Some owners aren't sure about a salary cap. Players don't mind a salary floor. Players want nothing to do with the salary cap. They want to have everyone make, $1 million a year or whatever it might be. They don't want to have there be a cap on being able to make 30, 40, 50 million dollars. Of course they don't want that. So the players don't see that the same way. A lot of the owners, there seems to be dissension there too. It's not like the players are some monolithic group and the owners are another monolithic group and they just don't agree. Within both the groups, there are pros and cons. There are liberals and conservatives. You know what I mean? It's all, I'm not talking politics. I'm talking fiscally and that kind of thing. There are these divided groups within the two main groups that make even getting either group to agree with themselves difficult. What is likely to happen here as the growing sentiment is that the owners are starting to realize that they're putting people off. The last couple of years, ratings have been great. TV's up. That's another issue that they have with Rob Manfred, the commissioner, talk about changing the way the league handles distributing the money from TV, about finding a new television provider, in essence, because remember the whole thing. Why am I drawing a blank? I'm drawing a blank on the company that went out of business, Bally's last year, Bally's, that lost all the teams last year. So Manfred wants to redo that system. He wants to alter revenue sharing. Not everyone wants to do that. So again, that's a dissension amongst the owners. But I think there is a growing understanding that people are getting turned off by this. The ratings might be good, right? And that's great for baseball. But there's problems here. There are teams that just feel like they can't compete. There are fans that feel like their teams aren't trying to compete. We have talked about how the fantasy space has seen a significant downturn in baseball. Part of that's just the world these days and how the outgrowth from the COVID era. But the fact is, we've seen it downturn. And baseball can't afford another strike. Sports should never come to a strike. There's billions of dollars for everyone. They should never come to a strike. Baseball can't afford a strike. So if on December 2nd, 2026, Major League Baseball has a strike, it could be over. And I hope they realize that. I hope they all sit down, calmer heads prevail, as they say, and they find a way to bridge these gaps. There are billions and billions of dollars available. Figure it out. Now, whether we're in the political realm or we're in the professional sports realm, figuring things out, it seems to be a lot more difficult than it should be. I don't know why. You sit down at a table, you hear both sides out, you give a little bit, you get a little bit, you move forward. You negotiated it out, right? That's what we do, or we should be doing. But of course, we don't do that. So hopefully they can figure it out. They got plenty of time. But we're hearing shots across the bow. You got, Clark talking for the players. You got Manfred talking for the owners. Like, this is 2 years out, and they're already talking about it in the press. And again, the article in the Athletic the other day was very suggestive that it seems almost a fait accompli that a strike is coming on December 2nd of 2026. Let's hope it's wrong. Angelo says, I remember the old days when the Cubs were on WGN and the Braves were on TBS. I do too, Angelo. My favorite non-Giant player growing up was Dale Murphy. And it's because TBS always had the Braves on, right? So, yeah, I totally get that. I miss those days too. And, I just turned 50. I'm in my 50s now. I've seen, every generation does this, right? Like, I think what my grandparents saw the world transition to, and it's amazing. I think my world too, and especially in like the fantasy space, I've been running a poll over on Twitter X at the Ray Flowers. We'll again look at some of the answers you've given in a couple of minutes. I'm running this poll, how long have you played fantasy baseball? And I think back to when I started there, I've seen a lot of great stories of people sharing, like, I started in the 80s and pencils and paper and newspapers and, compiling the data yourself. I was there with you. And I think about the growth that we have now, like my freaking phone. This phone is 1,000 times, 10,000 times stronger than my first computer, 100,000 times, I don't even know. I think my first gateway computer, now I had a VIC-20. We had the first compact portable computer. My dad always had stuff. So we always had the technology. The first compact computer, portable computer, had a screen. It was it was a green screen. I don't remember. It's not RGB, whatever the green is. And it was, I don't know, 8 by 10 inches, 8 by 8 inches, something like that. That thing weighed like 30 pounds. So different. But my first gateway computer, I think, was a 10 gigabyte hard drive, I think. My phone's 512. World's changed a lot. Anyway, let's hope baseball figures it out in short order. Don't think they will, but let's hope they do. Next thing to address here is, when should you draft? And this is we were talking with Tyler Brieger last week about the best ball in football, and we talked about drafting now versus drafting later, and both of us said our real preference is to draft later. In the case of football, we haven't had the draft yet. We haven't had free agency yet, so that's even a different scenario than we're dealing with now. But speaking of free agency, we keep talking about Alex Bregman every day. He still hasn't signed. Apparently, Alex Bregman he's wanting more money, which is counter to what we talked about on the show yesterday when Pete Alonso signed. I find it really interesting that apparently Bregman's asking for more money now. I did find it also interesting that if you missed it, Yohan Moncada signed with the Angels. So now the Angels have Yohan Moncada and Anthony Rendon. Yeah, let's go. I think Moncada got $5 million on a one-year deal. So that's roughly $40 million for Rendon and Moncada. Anyway, back to the larger point of when should you draft. Baseball is still, guys are still signing. Bregman still hasn't signed. We had Colin Poche sign this morning. Teams are still signing players. So I think it's a little early to do a draft now. I think that, my drafts like the FSGA and Labor and Tout Wars often draft in February or early March. A lot of that because of, I think, trying to get stuff out for you all. We used to draft, if I think back, I think we used to draft like the first week of February, and that's kind of gotten pushed back as time has gone on because we really wanted to get out there early. Now it's different. Now there's Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, and everyone's got an internet presence, so it's not like you're looking at some old magazine. So the bottom line is, when is the right time to draft? I'd say sometime in March. Now it all depends on what you're doing and your time and your schedule, your life, kids, school, all that kind of stuff. But my opinion has always been you want to get as much information as possible to make the best decisions. For me, like you draft, let's say you draft Saturday, you draft tomorrow. You haven't even played an inning of camp yet. There's camp battles that have to shake out. There's free agency that has to play out. There will be injuries in camp, some minor, some significant. Why not avoid all that? Why not draft on March 15th and have a pretty good sense of who's in starting rotations, who's in starting lineups, the health of players? That makes sense to me. Now, I will say that there are many leagues, including Tout Wars, who's often in recent years drafted on St. Patrick's Day. Don't draft on the 17th of March. When is the 17th of March? 17th of March is on Monday. Okay, we're not doing it this year. That to me has always been wild. Come on, there's nothing holy. But yeah, March 15th, March 20th. So if you look at the calendar, March 15th is a Saturday. 15th, 16th, Saturday, Sunday might be the ideal time to draft. Maybe 22, 23 the next week. Again, there's, you could say to yourself, well, Ray, I've read every article over at fantasyguru.com. I spent all the offseason studying players. I'm good to go right now. Then draft. You might have an advantage over others that are still paying attention to football until the Super Bowl is over this weekend. Still have the same issue about free agents not signing. Still have the same issue about playing time. Still have the same issue about health in camp. So there's still negatives here. But that's kind of my opinion. I'd say mid-March, if you're asking, and a couple people have. So there you go. Angela did a mock draft yesterday. Mock drafts are good. You can do those anytime. Totally fine to do those right now. Mock draft yesterday. Good job, Angela. Are you using ADP properly? Let's move on to that before we get to Twitter polls and talk to Russell Clay in about 15 minutes. The other day I talked a lot about Jacob deGrom and how it's befuddling. Like the world right now is on fire. Okay. But this Jacob deGrom news in our industry and what we're doing here in fantasy baseball, it's insanity. He's going as a top 50 player, not pitcher, top 50 player over at the NFBC. Let's get the update this morning through drafts yesterday. Because the NFBC does a great job. Their ADP, you can sort on dates, which is fantastic. So in the 10 drafts that have occurred the last week over at the NFBC, Jacob deGrom, ADP is 46th overall. So it's actually gone up a little bit. It was 48 the other day, so it's gone up a little bit. And currently he's coming off the board as the 11th pitcher overall. Again, we talked about this on the show yesterday. To me, that's just insanity, like pure insanity. So it just got me to thinking, and I've written about ADP. We've talked about ADP here on the show, but just wanted to hit on it again one more time because we're starting to get it. I'm sure we're getting new viewers and people starting to transition from football to baseball. So ADP, average draft position, I really appreciate and utilize the NFBC's ADP. It's free to view for everybody. NFBC, it's actually NFC if you look it up. Great resource. Great league. It's one of the few places anymore that you can play high stakes baseball. Good group of people there running the show. Greg and Tom are great people. I've worked with them myself for years. They always pay out. You have to worry about the money aspect of things. So NFBC, full thumbs up for me. And their ADP is great. One of the greatest things, as I noted about the ADP, is the ability to filter it. You can filter it on dates, which is prime. You can also filter it based on contests. So is it the main event that's a 15-team league? Is it one of their satellite leagues, which is a 12-team league? Is it a guillotine league? Is it a best ball league? Like, you can filter all of these options, which is, again, fantastic. So I really encourage people, if you're going to use ADP, I think NFBC is good. A lot of the websites, like if you're on ESPN or Yahoo or CBS, not that their ADP is bad, but you know, a lot of what happens is people sign up for leagues and then just don't draft. So you get a self-perpetuating ADP because if, you know, Jacob deGrom is, according to them, I haven't looked, I'm making this up. If Jacob deGrom is pitcher 9 in the rankings over there and someone doesn't show up and it's the 4th round, Jacob deGrom's getting picked because the computer's going to say, oh, he's the best guy left on ADP. So then the player ends up getting their ADP solidified because the computer's making that pick. NFBC doesn't have that. People are spending their own money. No one's auto-drafting, right? So that's another reason to like it. What they do also have there at the NFBC is a very good tool. A lot of times you'll have the ADP 52, 106, whatever it might be, and they have that in their ranking, in their ADP over at NFBC. But they also have a minimum and a maximum, which I think is also very important. Jacob deGrom, as an example, has gone as early as 36th, as late as 74th. So there's a spectrum there. You look at, how about this? Devin Williams has gone as early as 33, as late as 87. So again, we're talking about a guy in the 3rd round or a guy in the 6th round. That's a 7th round. That's a big difference, right? So that's a nice part of the tool they have, is the minimum and maximum. The average draft position informs you when people are taking players. That's it. It's not a drafting tool. Again, we just talked about it. There's a spread there. deGrom's ADP is 46, but he's gone as early as 36 or as late as 74. That's rounds of difference. Rounds of difference. ADP might be 46, but he's gone as late as in the 70s. So make sure when you're looking at ADP, you understand what it is. You understand that it's just what the market generally pays. Understand that if deGrom's got an ADP of 46, as he does right now, the odds of him falling to 70 starts diminishing as we get closer to the start of the season, because a lot of people just won't. They're afraid to deviate from ADP. If ADP says so, oh, his ADP was 48, I got him at 70. It was a great bargain. Whether the player was good, whether you should have drafted him or not, people do that. So don't become a slave to ADP. Just don't do it. All right, let's talk a little bit about some polls over on Twitter X at The Ray Flowers. You can follow me all over the place at The Ray Flowers, all over the place. Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads. Don't forget to follow me over at fantasyguru.com as well. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Get signed up for the baseball product. We have the seasonal baseball product, the DFS baseball product, the wagering baseball product. I'm heavily involved in all 3 of those, and I will be this season yet again. You can get all 3 of them in the all-in package. You can buy 2 of them. Send a note to support at fantasyguru.com. You can get 1 of them. Just subscribe, top right corner. I ran some polls. I continue to run polls. I always love doing this in the preseason. And this is a question we've talked about, and it applies to what we were discussing earlier about the draft. Does MLB need a salary cap? And of the 800 people that voted, 78% said yes. So you, the fans, want a salary cap. Again, that will be one of the main contentious points of the upcoming CBA discussions. I think that, you know, I said this, the cap, they need a floor. They definitely need a floor. A cap, I'm not against the cap, right? I think the real problem is we see this in sports too. It's like there's a cap, but you can overspend. Like I love Larry Bird writes in basketball. meaning that if you have a guy that is becoming a free agent, he's on your team, he's becoming a free agent, maybe you only have $5 million to spend, but let's keep your team together so you can spend $7 million as an example. So you can go over the salary cap to retain your own players. I like stuff like that, but in football, they have signing bonuses, and so they defer things down the road and this and that. So to me, if you're going to have a salary cap, you got to have a salary cap. And it's hard and fast. If the salary cap for baseball is $250 million, it's $250 million. There's no deferring things. There's no signing bonus things. There's no retaining free agents. It's $250 million, right? So that's, to me, the issue, because you see this in baseball now. They have this luxury tax. And teams, you can spend $450 million going to pay the luxury tax. Then it's not really, it's not really a cap. So I think the floor is probably more important for baseball, especially with all the revenue sharing, which is what a lot of people have said. It's like, look, if these teams are getting all this money, why are they not putting it back into the team? But 78% of you said you want a salary cap in baseball. And, like we were talking about earlier, I think the owners and players both are aware of that fact, and it might be a driving force in the upcoming negotiations. Next up, how much money will you spend on fantasy baseball this year for advice? Magazines, draft guides, website subscriptions. I run this poll every year. 7% of people said they're going to spend over $200. 11% of people said they're going to spend $100 to $200. A third of the people said they're going to spend $1 to $99, and then 49% said none. None. Half the people that responded to this said none. And again, this is what I've talked. And you wonder why all these people in the fantasy space can't find jobs. You wonder why all these people, these companies are folding and going out of business all the time. You wonder why some analysts that you might like are working at 4 different websites. Nothing. Half the people voting said nothing. And boy, that's And I'm fine. Financially, I'm totally fine. So this is not about me, but the idea of, we're gonna play this game that we love, and we're gonna analyze this, and we're gonna do all this stuff, but we're not gonna pay $1 for help. More power to you. I'm not saying everyone needs to spend money for help, but the fact is, this is a business. This is an entity or a career choice by a lot of people, and it's really hard for some people to make money in this space. If you're a youngster or even an older person that's thinking, I'm going to transition to fantasy sports, good luck. When I started, there were no jobs. That was the impediment to success that I had. No one was doing this when I started. I had to create scenarios where I could even get a job, right? Now we're at a point of massive saturation. 12-year-olds have YouTube pages, and 10-year-olds have websites. It's so diluted. I don't know how you really make it mark anymore. You need something unique. So if you're looking to get in, you need something unique. Because again, look at this. Half the people responding aren't going to pay for your product, even if it's great. That's depressing. Next up, how much money will you spend on fantasy baseball entry fees? So this is not advice. This is how much you're going to play to sign up for leagues, that kind of thing. Again, 27% of people said none, which again, I'm not saying you have to play for money. In fact, I don't think you have to play for money. If you don't want to play for money, don't play for money. Just play for the love of the game. Totally fine. But 27% of people said nothing. 14% of people said $500 or more. So these people are really in. They're in, whether that's one league they're in, or maybe they're in 5 leagues and all of them are $500, or maybe they're all $100 leagues. Maybe they're playing the NFBC, the main event, and it's almost $2,000. I don't know. What is the NFBC's main event? Is it $1,750 still? I should know that. NFBC used to be $1,750. Let's see here. It's $1,800. Grand prize of $200,000. $1,800 that one. So obviously anyone playing the NFBC is in that group. So that leaves the main chunk of people, the remaining 60% roughly, in the middle. 20% of people said they're going to spend $250 to $500, and then 39% of people, the leading result, $100 to $250. Not surprised by that. I really struggled, actually, when I was putting this poll together. I struggled with what dollar figures to use. I considered using smaller numbers, but then you only get 4 options, and it's like I don't want to have the top option just be 250 plus. Felt that was too low, so I'm not surprised. I anticipated that number 1 to 249 being the answer. 39%. So again, we're at roughly 70% of people under 250 bucks. Is that the group you're in? Next up, how many fantasy baseball leagues will you play in this season? 10 or more, only 4%. 6 to 9, only 5%. So the responders, less than 10% of people are going to play 6 or more leagues. Back in the day, everyone, how many leagues were you in back in the day? I used to be in 10, 11, 12 leagues now. I drastically cut that back. So it's just like, my job is to help you all win, not play in leagues myself. So I think last year I was in 5 leagues, 4 or 5 leagues. So I'd fall into the 1 to 5, which is the winning number here, of 67.7%. 23% of people say they're going to play in 0 leagues. And again, to me, it's always interesting. So let's see here. So 50% of people aren't spending any money for any fantasy advice. 27% of people aren't spending any money to play in a league, and 23% of people aren't even playing in a league this year. Why are you voting? It's so weird. Like, I do football half the year, so I'm sure a ton of my followers are football guys. I get it. But if you're a football player, it's odd you're voting on a baseball poll and saying no. Weird to me. But anyway, over 2/3 of the people that voted said 1 to 5 leagues, which again, I think that makes sense. I am very surprised only 10% said 6 or more. And I think that speaks to where the fantasy game is evolving. That speaks to where our universe is at, our world is at. And I think it speaks a lot, and I've said this many times, I think it goes back to COVID too. COVID was a real defining line in terms of, there were deaths and all that kind of stuff. So people looked at the world differently, and we were all panicked when everything started, and some people didn't leave their house, right? So people just started looking at life different. And fantasy baseball kind of never really is rebounded from that. And there are issues with the game itself. A lot of people don't like baseball because it's too long and too many games, and they got problems with the team spending and not spending. Like, there's a lot of issues going on. But I think ultimately a lot of people said, look, I still love baseball. I still want to play this, but I took up hiking. I took up kayaking. Right? I took up painting. I only have time for 1 or 2 leagues now. I don't have time to do 7 leagues anymore. So I think part of that is what we're dealing with here. But yeah, 10% of people, 6 plus leagues. Kind of surprised by that. Next up, how much is the first place prize in your fantasy baseball league? Now, if you're in 6 leagues, I don't know if the people that voted did an average. I don't know if they took the highest one. So this is not a precise answer at all, but it's just a general, right? 11% of people said there's no, which again is odd, right? How much money we spent on entry fees this year? 27% said none. How much is your league winner? 11%. Doesn't quite match, but anyway. 11% of people say there's no prize, they're playing for free. Again, no problem with that. I know some people have a problem with that. I have 0 problem with that. 1 to 200 bucks, 8%. Interesting. $200 to $500, 23%. $500, 56%. This is really interesting to me. We're talking about all these low numbers of people not paying for advice, not paying to join leagues, not doing many leagues. But over half the people that responded to this poll said the winner of their league gets over 500 bucks. Isn't that interesting? And I know I talk to a lot of people when I run these polls and have back and forth with people, and people just randomly ask questions, obviously, all the time. I find it interesting too that, how is your league set up in terms of the payment? A lot of leagues seem to be, we all pay our entry fee. We all pay $100 to enter the league or whatever. We got $1,000. Let's say there's 10 teams. $100 of that goes to the website and all that. So we have $900 left. We give $800 to the winner, and we give $50 to second place and third place. Or we give $700 to the winner and $200 to second place. Like, it's really weird how all the leagues seem to be so top heavy. Like, instead of saying, well, 1, 2, and 3, we've got $900. We're going to go $400 for the winner, $300 for second place, $200 for third place. We don't do that. They tend to do these really top heavy responses in leagues, and we're obviously seeing that here, much like a GPP scenario in fantasy sports, right? Instead of the cash game. So, those are some of the polls that I ran over at fantasyguru.com. I work at fantasyguru.com. Those are some of the polls I ran at the Ray Flowers. Continue to run those right now. If you go over at the moment, we've got a poll running right now. How many years have you played fantasy baseball? And that one's got about an hour left. So depending if you're watching the show live, if you're watching it on demand, there is still time to vote at the Ray Flowers. How many years have you played fantasy baseball? And I got to say, I am not surprised by the results so far. It's skewing older. We'll share the answers here in the upcoming weeks here on the show, because I'll continue to run polls and we'll continue to do this again, talking about things on the show. Okay, so that's our baseball talk for the day. We'll be back on Monday. Obviously, on Monday, we will review everything that is going on in the Super Bowl. So we'll do that. We'll still have baseball talk. Don't worry, we're not going to do a full hour of the show. I know of the one game and everything, but we'll talk about it. Maybe I'll just share how my garage beer went. Maybe I'll talk about the food I ate. Maybe I'll talk about Puppy Bowl. I just set the recording for the Puppy Bowl last night. Folks, watch the Puppy Bowl on Animal Planet. You got to watch Puppy Bowl. So there's a lot to discuss around that, but we'll also, of course, talk baseball, next week. And today it's time for football. As I noted earlier in the show, Fridays are Russell Clay's day. He has graciously agreed to switch days next week. So Russell will be on Thursday next week instead of Friday. Normally he's on Friday. It's Friday. He's here. He is our Dynasty guy over at fantasyguru.com. So we'll spend a lot of time today talking with him about setting up a Dynasty league. He's a general football guy, though, of course. Any and all questions with football, he's your man. He's always in Discord, and he's always willing and able to make a comment, too. Sometimes they're funny, too. He's not always serious, which I like about Russell Clay. So let's bring him in to the show today. Russell Clay at fantasyguru.com. How you doing, Russell?
What's up, Ray? Yeah, it's a good time of year.
Hear you, Russ.
Super Bowl.
Can't hear you. I don't know if that's me or if that's you.
Oh.
Folks, someone in the chat room, let me know. Russell, keep talking and let me know if I was having an issue earlier with my I hope everyone's heard me the whole time. Oh, there we go.
Can you hear
Doug, I can't hear you right now, Russell. Folks, can you hear Russell? Say something, Russell. Sing a song, Russell. And the folks will know if they can hear you or not. Oh, he's going to go out and come back in. I see, Doug, you said the NFBC is what I'm talking about, the National Fantasy Baseball Championships, NFBC. They also have the football version, which is the NFFC. So the whole discussion we were having about baseball and all that, the NFBC is what you want to talk about. Okay, Russell, hey, it's Ray here. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, my God, we're back at this again. Well, the folks say they can hear you. I don't know what's going on with my connection today. I got my headphones in. Everything's going. Everyone can hear me. Everyone can hear you, according to what they're saying now. Yeah, okay. So we tried this once before, and I guess we're going to have to do it again, where I'm just going to have to ask you questions, Russell. This is going to be a very awkward interview because there's no way for me to leave. If I leave, it shuts this thing down and all that. So bear with us, folks. I'm just going to have to ask questions, and when you're done talking, just give me a thumbs up. Hey, Russ, how you doing today?
I'm good. Super Bowl week. Ray's the man, and ready to talk some football.
Russell Clay at fantasyguru.com. I'm checking right now to see if it's just me. Like, I'm trying to see if I got any sound. This is just so weird. I don't really know what's going on. Oh, we started the show. We started the show earlier today, and there was a problem with the music. So it's probably just on the provider end. Now my YouTube's not working. Oh my gosh. The world is coming to an end. Anyway, we'll talk about things here. Maybe it's my internet, Russell. Who knows? Okay, so I wanted to bring you on today. It's that time of year where everyone's kind of, there's one more game left, and we'll talk to you about the Super Bowl in a few minutes here. But I wanted to have a discussion with you. We had a question the other day. I'll throw it up on screen. Caleb Daniels asked us about Travis Hunter, and he was comparing him to Shante Spencer. But I wanted to give you a chance to kind of break down Travis Hunter, what your thoughts are. I know he's a two-way player. Is he going to play one side or the other? How do you view him as a defensive player? Because I felt bad we didn't really answer Caleb's question. And since you're a Dynasty guy, have at it, Russell.
So Travis Hunter's one of the toughest evals from a Dynasty perspective in a long while, because if he was just a wide receiver, we'd be all super high on him, and we'd be very in on his Dynasty value as a future featured weapon. But the problem is, as Caleb Daniels got to here, is that he is probably better as a defensive back. And I mean, probably 100%. He's going to come into the league and be one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. So the chances are, even if he does play offense, it's going to be dealing with limited snaps on offense, because the defensive coordinators are going to yell at the head coach and be like, hey, we need this guy every snap on defense. He said he's going to try to play every snap on offense, but I don't see any way that happens. I think he's going to be a part-time player. He's going to have certain packages, maybe 30 to 40 snaps on offense at most. And that's going to be what we're looking at.
All right, Russell. I don't know what it is. It's something with the program today, because I can hear music on my computer. So I'll fix this for the next time out. Sorry about that, everyone, but thanks for the answer. I assume it was a great answer, Russell. You look like you were doing a great job. Very in-depth answer there. Let's talk a little bit about setting up a Dynasty League. And I think that, it's that time of year again. There's one more game left, and a lot of people are looking toward next season. We continue to get a bunch of questions in the chat room over at fantasyguru.com. So, let's start at the beginning. What is your ideal scenario when we're setting up a Dynasty League in terms of roster size? Is it 20? Is it 30? Is it we got to go IDP and go 50? Like, where's kind of the sweet spot for you if people are looking to set up a Dynasty League for the first time?
25 is perfect for me. There's enough depth to where you can lock in some of your later round players, but it's not too deep where you have to deal with a waiver wire of nothing. Both sides are not good. I like to have a Dynasty League where there is some value in the waivers and the waiver process. Once you get to 30, 35 roster spots, the waiver process becomes a slog, and there's nothing reasonable out there. I do like 30 roster spots the most personally, but if we're talking about just a general roster spot for everyone, 25 is the best. I like 25 to 30, and then roll from there.
I like 25 to 32. I can hear you, Russ.
Yeah!
Yes! Let's go! Yes.
We're back, Ray.
We are. Let's go. Thanks for listening today, folks. We're out. No, I don't know what that is. I'm messed around with everything. But anyway, we're back. Okay, good. I don't have to sit here and not have good follow-up questions. All right, so 25 to 30 is kind of your happy zone, Russell. What about the league size in terms of teams? I didn't even ask that. 10 teams, 12 teams, 14 teams. I should have asked that first.
I like 12. 12 is the perfect one. 10's too little. 14. I've never been in a 14-team league, Ray, where I felt, oh, this is like fun. This just feels. This is everyone's just grinding. You look over there, you see the guy who hasn't had water in a week. You're like, yeah, me too, buddy. The last 15 guys on my roster all stink. So I think 12's the right. 12's the right range.
And I should have asked this too, because a lot of people, you'll say I want to do Dynasty, and what they often end up doing is they end up taking over an orphan team, which presents its own problems, right? Because they can't find people to play a Dynasty League with. So is it, come to fantasyguru.com and say in the Discord, let's go? Is there a place that you suggest looking? Like, how would you suggest people find a Dynasty League to start as well?
If you're a Fantasy Guru subscriber, you have a huge asset and a huge leg up on everyone else, because you can go in the Discord and say, hey, I'm looking for a Dynasty League. Maybe we can start one up. There's a lot of people who play Dynasty in our Discord at this point. So go check that out. Go get talking to people. It's generally a really sharp, fun group of people. So go check that out. But, worst comes to worst, I joined an orphan, my first league, I'm pretty sure. And I don't think your first league is about winning. It's more about learning how to play. And you're going to lose. If you win your first Dynasty League, you're a beast. I think I got smoked in my first one. So but it was fun to learn the rules and how the year works and get into the rookie draft and get into waivers and get into the new year. And, even going through the process of that next year where you see other new owners come in and then you kind of learn, maybe I shouldn't have joined this league because there's a guy with the top 7 dynasty wide receivers all on his team. But yeah, that's all part of the process.
Russell Clay at fantasyguru.com. Russell, so we got a 12-team league, 25 roster spots, kind of what we're hoping to get. What about the actual starting lineup? Is it a traditional 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, tight end, kicker, flex, defense? Like, talk us through what you would have as an ideal starting lineup.
Ideal fun. You have 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 1 wide receiver, 1 tight end, and a bajillion flexes. Just roll them out there. Just have, 7 flexes, 6 flexes, something like that. So a huge part of what we do at Fantasy Guru is the start sit stuff. And I watch people all year. They're just, they're dying, Ray. They're dying. They have to decide between 2 top 15 running backs or 2 top 10 wide receivers. Just get better league formats where you don't have to think about that stuff. Because that is what causes the burnout, y'all. That is the fun. Like, you don't want to lose the fun of finding the deep sleeper and getting to start him, while you're dealing with having to pick between 2 top 15 guys. So you want to have, especially in Dynasty, because a huge part of it's for me is you want to find the late round guys. And if you can get that guy into your starting lineup, that's like a huge win. And that's where I kind of find the most fun. So more flexes, be able to get those secondary guys in there and have depth matter. That is where I find the most fun in Dynasty.
Yeah, I always love this question comes up 137 times a week. Zay Flowers or Jacoby Myers? It's like both. Like it's both. So yeah, get in the league and I know a lot of people, and we always run into this. People think it's easier and simpler if it's smaller.
No.
Okay, but no, it's not, because then you end up with these people. There was a caller on Jeff's show yesterday who's doing these one and done thing, and this guy, you could tell he was giving himself an ulcer trying to figure out how to set a lineup for one game. It's like because he was trying to play game theory and game flow and then the math, and it's like, just pick, dude. Play Hurts, just play him. Like it's and I think a lot of people really run into that. So I totally agree with that, Russell. Expand the starting lineup, and if you put a good team together, you get a benefit anyway. And that's what we help you do at fantasyguru.com. Should we have kickers and defenses, or should we not? And should we use IDP?
I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for kickers. I think it's fun and funny. It's kind of a funny, like, random part of the game. But no. Should we? No. If you have it in your league, I think it's kind of fun. But yeah, if we're talking tactically and like optimizing, no. Right. But it's fun.
Okay. Yeah. It's not fun. So if you're gonna we do have Mike Horn, who I think is probably the kicker guru of the universe. So we do have an excellent guy here. Is it really fun?
Well,
it's random.
I think it's fun when you get a random kicker week and you get those 11 points and you win
3.
Now, the other end is if you lose because a random guy gets 17 points from your kicker. Yeah, that's infuriating. I think the winning aspect of that is really hilarious because you're like, I beat you with, Martin Gramatica.
Nice. Yeah, Gario your premium. That's nice. Yeah. What about going back to setting up a league? Some leagues have contracts. So you can keep a guy for 3 years, for 4 years, for 2 years.
Yuck.
Some leagues, okay, so we're out on that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not doing salary caps where you can spend a certain amount of money and inflation. It's just, if you're doing a dynasty league, just have them be on your team.
I get it, but the more complicated it gets, the harder I have to work and the harder I have to work, the more chance of burnout that's just my experience.
Right.
So, if I have one league and that's it,
Mm-hmm.
go hog wild, go all in. But if you're going to be doing stuff during the year, or you got responsibilities outside of fantasy football, you want to make it so it's challenging, but not complicated, if that makes sense. Like, I want the league and the roster building and the players that I pick to be the challenging part, not this guy's got one more year in his contract. Like, I'm not a GM. I'm not qualified to be a GM. I don't care about contracts. If that stuff is fun to you, then great. I've just found it to be much more make it too complicated for me.
I think it's very complicated, and I think another issue we run into is people have a very hard time explaining it to us when they're asking us for help, and we can't really answer the question without all the details, and so we end up in this scenario where we go back and forth, 14 times, and then then the user says, "Oh yeah, I forgot this," and then change. It's easier just to do the players. It just is. Now, you don't have to, like Russell said. It's easier. I agree with that. If you're starting a Dynasty League, this is another question, I think, schematically here. You're starting a Dynasty League, Russell Clay at fantasyguru.com. Do you do your first draft with veterans and then have a rookie draft? Or do you do all of them in one draft? Like, once you get going, you keep your players and you keep your 25 players. You have a rookie draft every year. Okay, that's simple. But if you're starting a league out, how do you handle that?
So if you're doing it before the NFL draft, just have the draft slots in the startup. It sounds crappy, but the only alternative is to randomize a rookie draft order. And I've been the benefit of that. In 2016, I had a randomized rookie draft order, and I got Zeke Elliott. And so it was kind of like, okay, well, I just got a first-round dynasty pick, and someone else got the 112, right?
Right.
So you can't really do that. Like last year, someone just gets Jaden Daniels, and I get, well, actually, the whole first round was awesome. So.
Yeah, it really was. The only one that wasn't was Marvin Harrison.
I'd probably get Brian Thomas, so never mind.
Yeah.
But most years, the later round picks are worse. So you don't want to randomize it, but if you are doing a startup after the NFL draft, which a lot of people do, then you can just have the rookies in the player pool and not have to worry about it.
One thing I've heard Mike Dempsey, football diehards on SiriusXM. Mike is a maniac. He's in like 112 leagues, and he's probably made 950 trades the last 6 weeks. Like, he's just all over this stuff. And so he has his own leagues. He runs leagues, or a lot of them are dynasty. And one of the rules he has in some of his dynasty leagues, and I've heard this from Jeff Mann, so I'm assuming it's accurate. One of the rules he's had is in the dynasty league that Jeff is in with him, Mike makes you pay a year ahead. So if we're talking about you're in 2025, you had to pay the 2025 entry fee and 2026, because you don't want the scenario to run into where people just decide halfway through the year and they're not paying, or maybe your commissioner didn't collect all the fees at the start of the season. So talk us through what the best way is to handle the payment. Does everyone have to pay by the first week of the season, or they're thrown out of the league? Do you like the idea of people paying a year ahead so there's some continuity there? What do you think about that piece, Russell?
Historically, I view it, if you trade your future first, you have to pay ahead for the next year. Beyond that, hopefully you're engaged and you want to be in the league and it's something you're interested in. So, life changes, people get married, people have kids, things happen. This is a multi-year thing. So once you get to year 5 of a dynasty league, a lot of things in a lot of people's lives have changed. Mm-hmm. So just keep that in mind. If you're invested in the long haul for a league, you got to recognize it's not always personal. If someone leaves, it's not always, they might have had to move this year. I mean, I've seen, you get to know a lot of people by doing these leagues, and you're like, man, life changes so fast. And sometimes you'll look up, you're in a league for 5 to 7 years and you're like, this guy's changed jobs and got married, divorced, and married again. And,
Right.
this guy has 5 kids. It's like, all right, well, that guy's leaving this year. Cause I had the funniest one ever, Ray. Me and my buddy, Nathan Powell, had a dynasty league starting in like 2014, 2015. Year 3, this guy built, a perfect dynasty roster, right? Like the dynasty roster we all aspire to. And then he left because he was going to grad school.
Okay.
The guy who took over won 3 straight championships, and I've never hated somebody more in my life. Because he did, right? He didn't do any of the work.
Yeah. But
he got this juggernaut and he won every year. But I still admire that roster that guy built, but he had no way to do it still. So, life like that happens. But yeah, paying ahead for future years, but it's all, you know what I mean? It's all all over the place.
Final dynasty question for you before we talk a little Super Bowl with Russell Clay. You mentioned it, so let's hit on it point straight up. You're doing a startup fantasy league that's a dynasty setup. The position most people are going to take is the NFL is a young man's game. I'm not drafting anyone over 26 years old. Let's go. And this team has got, and people feel great about the team after the draft. And then 12 months later, they came in 10th place because only 1/3 of the players played out, right?
Yep.
Talk to us about the balancing act. And you've talked about this a lot when we had discussions about dynasty keeper leagues. You talked about the Joe Mixons and the Derrick Henrys of the world and how there are people that stand out, that aren't traditional in terms of how long they last in the NFL. But what about the idea of everyone who wants to do this taking guys that are in their first or second year and just ignoring veteran players, ignoring 28-year-olds, 29-year-olds? Does it matter what position they play? Because we see guys at the quarterback position playing until 38 now. Talk us through the age piece, because I think that's a huge part as well when we're talking dynasty.
Your experience, unless you do this for 20 years, is entirely based on what draft class is that first couple years in the league. Because there are people right now who have played dynasty for 7 years, and their experience is, I just keep running it back with veterans and I win every year. Year 1, I drafted Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey, and I just win every year. And I've won every year for 7 years, and this is how dynasty works. And then there are people who drafted I don't know, some random class in 2012 where all the running backs were out of the league in 3 years. And they're like, never draft any young players. And then there are guys who, drafted Calvin Johnson in 2007 and are like, all right, this was fun for a while, but don't draft old players. So it is truly, unless you see the full thing, it is totally based on the draft class. So this 2024 class we just had is probably going to carry dynasty leagues for a long time. So if you loaded up on that class, you're in a great spot. This year, if you get running backs from the 2025 class, you're probably going to be happy for a very long time. If you got anything from the 2022 or 2023 class, you're like, rookies suck, man. This is terrible. I never want rookies again. I just want all vets. So there's a good mix, and finding the right rookie class is huge because there's obviously a lot of busts along the way, but the upside of getting a Brian Thomas at 110 in a rookie draft is just, way higher. The upside there's way higher than a vet. But, my one philosophy change, as we've talked about a million times, vet running backs, I'm riding it out. If Derrick Henry gets hurt and he's done by 28, fine. But I'm going to take the potential upside of waiting out all these veteran running backs.
2012, by the way, you threw it out there. Doug Martin was the second running back taken. That's a huge hit. Huge hit. First one was Trent Richardson.
Oh.
Third one was David Wilson.
Oh my God.
Isaiah Peed, LaMichael James, Ronnie Hillman, Bernard Pierce.
Ray, that draft class was stuck. There's something about I lost a lot in that class. Yeah.
Hopefully you drafted Doug Martin, or you were not happy in 2012. Super Bowl time. Let's talk a little bit about that before we let you go here. And again, Russell joins us every Friday here on the show. He'll be with us next Thursday just for the 1 week, as Tyler Peake will be on Friday. Super Bowl food. Do you have a favorite Super Bowl food? Is it pretzels or is it something else?
Well, you know me, so I gotta have the pretzels.
Right.
But I feel like buffalo chicken dips become the staple of American households. So buffalo chicken dip, very important. Wings, you kind of get the theme. Lots of sodium for us.
Okay, me too, actually.
Super Bowl Sunday.
Do you drink beer or hard alcohol if you're imbibing?
Nah, I'll probably just go with coffee, and then I'm a big Pellegrino guy when I'm trying to be fancy. So
oh yeah, don't pinky out. I'm all about that.
Yeah.
Will you be watching the game kind of low key or at a big event this year?
I'm gonna be at a sports bar of some sorts, and vibing out there. So yeah. Last year I was at my buddy's place, and they had a nice TV and people making stuff, so that was fun.
Nice. Are you into the commercials? Do you care?
Not anymore. I did.
What changed?
I don't know. I think the internet changed it. Because I used to not get it spoiled, and now, Ray, all these commercials are online days before, and you're like, oh, there's no it's kind of like the movie's already out, so everyone already knows everything. It kind of loses. Remember, the Bud Light commercials in 2000? I'd be like, and I was like a young man, but I couldn't wait for those frogs, Ray.
Couldn't wait for the Bud Lights when you were 9 years old. I got you, Russ. I got you. My favorite commercial, I think, from the Super Bowl. Do you remember the Volkswagen commercial with the mini Darth Vader? The little kid that was in the Darth Vader suit, and he ran around trying to force everything.
Yeah.
And at the very end, his dad turned the car on with the key lock from in the house. I think that's probably my favorite. But yeah, my gal likes the commercials, and so but last year I felt really disappointed in the commercials last year. I remember just not. So yeah, I don't buy anything that's on the commercials, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
I just enjoy watching it. Speaking of the actual game, is there a matchup in particular that you're interested in? I know, Tyler's got his full matchup breakdown over at the site. We're answering questions that people have and all that. Is there a matchup? Are you keen on Saquon Barkley or Patrick Mahomes or Devonta Smith? What's kind of a matchup you're watching this weekend?
You mentioned it. The clear top matchup is Eagles running game versus Chiefs run defense. I am fascinated what unit wins out there. Two incredibly dominant units who, Chiefs defense was the better unit than their offense this year. So I'm very excited to see how that ends up. This is going to be a great football game. Say what I want about Nick Sirianni, but he's got his roster in the Super Bowl, and they're awesome. So can't wait.
By the way, when you go to the bar, are you going to be wearing an Eagles jersey? Are you going to be wearing anything sports related, or what do you got? Is there a plan?
I'll probably be wearing my Guru hoodie.
Nice.
So yeah,
you're gonna get it. We'll have Russell. For those of you not watching, he's going to get his hoodie off the couch. I think this is. I
already got some Norm hair on it.
Okay.
But, we got a nice black hoodie for us this week. So really, really enjoying that. It's actually super comfy. I don't know what company we used, but it's lovely.
Is that available to the public yet? I know we were talking about the store. Is it up? I'm looking at the website.
Oh, good point. I shouldn't be spoiling that.
No. I mean, we were talking about behind the scenes. We've had the room, and then we took it down to, I think, changing things up a little bit. I'm looking at. I don't know if it's available right now. I'll check. We'll have an answer for that next week. But yeah, we do have a whole bunch of swag.
Keep an eye out, y'all. Yeah. We got some nice product coming your way.
New swag, new designs. So yeah, that's okay. But I do like you representing there. That's good. in the old days, you could take it. Well, look, I got one right here. I don't know if I've ever showed you this. It's on my desk still. So back in the day, I used to run the website and my Twitter handle as baseball guys, right? Mm-hmm. And then it became, a lot of people were like, oh, you do football too. And it's like, I've done football for exactly the same amount of years as I've done baseball. I've done them since the start. So I got bracelets, and on one side, let's see if I can get the picture. It's really hard to see. You can't see it because of the background, I think. It says baseballguys.com. You kind of roughly see it. Kind of roughly see it.
Yep.
So that was one side of the bracelet. And then the other side of the bracelet, till blue shows up better. There it does. WWRFD. What would Ray Flowers do? So I used to have these, and I'd go out and I'd hand them out to people. Because, like, you can't give someone your guru jersey, right? I mean, your sweatshirt. But I could have said,
nobody's getting that. No.
Yeah, here's the bracelet. And they throw it on as a joke, and then they get home, and they're like, oh, yeah, baseballguys.com. So I used to have that. Maybe we need to get these for Guru. I don't know.
Honestly, little things like that.
Yeah.
I enjoy those things. So, maybe we could get little trinkets.
Yeah, there you go. Speaking of the game, you have a bet? I've been asking folks this week if they got a bet. We got a whole betting guide over at fantasyguru.com. It's at the top of the page. It says right there, Super Bowl guide. Click on that if you want to get involved. Send a note to support at fantasyguru.com. You got a free bet to share with folks?
Listen, this is my one game of the year where I just fire in some bets. I mean, I'll check out Jeff and Tyler's bets over there.
Right.
But this is the one time of year where I'm going to be goofy. Who knows? Maybe I'll bet the coin toss. Tails, always going to bet tails there. And do goofy stuff like this. Is like the one time where I allow myself. It's like, all right, let's just mess around here and fire in some money. I'll probably bet on the Chiefs. Okay. I do think they're going to win.
Right.
And player props. Again, the biggest one I'm watching is that Saquon one. I'm fascinated how that matches up.
If you go over there to the website, the Super Bowl guide, and click on that link at the top of the page, there pops up a live stream, a Super Bowl podcast live stream with, I see your face on there, Russell. Give the listeners a little bit of a behind the scenes of what that's about.
Oh, well,
it's pay, but what are you talking about?
The roster coach live stream this week, we did an hour on the Super Bowl talking about all the props. We went through Tyler's props. We went through FanDuel, broke down, all the players and what we're looking at, long shot bets, short-term bets. And we did look at coin toss and all that goofy stuff. So it's fun.
Do you like those bets, the Gatorade color and length of the national starts thing of banner national anthem? Do you care about that stuff? Not
normally, but I think if you're going to be hanging out with people or doing something goofy, right. I heard a super fun thing where people make a bunch of prop bets, put them in a bag, and then hand them out to people.
Okay. Yeah.
At the event. I love stuff like that. So yeah, if you want to hand someone, cool, like the Gatorade color, they got something to root for, it's
right. Fun. And final question for you. So you're going to be at this bar to be determined. Are you going to be on the lookout for a lady, or are you focused on the game?
Well, we got a few options, so I might have a lady with me.
Oh,
I went on a date yesterday.
Okay.
Shout out to JC.
Did you wear your Guru sweatshirt on that date?
I did.
Oh, wow. So she knows what she's getting into. Wow. Okay. So she might have
She seemed not annoyed with my work. So right. Yeah, we might have another date.
Or was it a dinner? People need to know.
Pizza in downtown Tucson. Okay. If you ever go to Tucson, they have a place called Jamie's. They have really good pizza there.
So she might be accompanying you on Sunday. Wow.
We're gonna try, right?
Well, all right. Definitely going to get an update next Thursday. I don't even care who wins the game now. I don't care about the commercials now. I just care about how this date goes. All right, let's go.
Yes, this is higher stakes.
Yeah, I'll probably be sitting on the couch eating homemade wings, which is not bad. But yeah, I'm not going to be out living the life, Russell Clay, because I'm old. I have no hair and I'm great. So Russell's living the life. Keep the dream alive for all of us, Russell. Russell Clay at fantasyguru.com. Follow him on Twitter X at Russell J Clay. I think in Discord it's Russell. Is it Russell J Clay 17 or something like that?
Yeah, remember when I told you I was trying to change that,
Yeah.
and then TikTok got banned, and
Yeah.
now I don't even have it on my phone anymore. So
Yeah, maybe you should switch it back. Who knows? But I think that's where you type in Russell Clay and you'll be able to find him in the Discord. Any final parting shots here before we let you go? Great visit today. Sorry about the mess up, everyone, for the volume at the start.
I'm going to be doing a pretzel review tomorrow, so check that out. Still looking at some options, but we're gonna start the new pretzel review season off right with something good, I think.
Remember, folks, at some point on Sunday, keep a good thought for Russell Clay.
That's right.
It's going to happen.
That's right.
This Sunday. Russell, thanks for your time today. We'll talk to you next Thursday. Enjoy the Super Bowl and everything that's around that this weekend.
Thanks, Ray.
You got it. He's Russell Clay. I'm Ray Flowers. We'll be back here on Monday to review the Super Bowl, continue the baseball talk. Thanks for joining us today. Head over to fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Have at it, folks. Support at fantasyguru.com. Support at fantasyguru.com. For Russell, I'm Ray. This has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.